And so speaking of Halloween, our next speaker and our opening speaker, that's not his costume. That's not a propeller hat. It just coincidentally, but we're fortunate this morning to have a longtime friend and colleague, Matt Besko. Matt, I've known him in many capacities, as the Fish and Wildlife Manager, the Director of Wildlife Policy. His current position with Alberta Environment and Parks is Director of Wildlife Health and Licensing, and avid hunter and a great conservationist. And so we asked Matt if he would share with us a few comments. And so I've got his slides ready to queue up whenever Matt's. So thank you, Matt, for joining us and helping get this kicked off.
Thank you both to Kevin and Beth for this great introduction. I just wanted to let everyone know that this propeller is part of a new sheep survey technology that we're developing right now. It saves a heck of a lot of money on helicopter costs. It works with an embedded electric motor, so it's environmentally friendly. Lithium batteries, apparently it displaces a lot of gray matter, but our provincial disease specialist, Margot Pybus, said that's not a worry. There's lots of room in there. But I can hover 50 meters over a sheep head. I can count the annuli with a pair of binoculars strapped to my forehead. In stealth mode, I can get down. I can do a nasal swab for Mycoplasma pneumoniae. So it's a great technology. We're pioneering. We've got Tesla involved. They sent me an email never to contact them again. And this is all working out really well. I have a big complaint with Kevin Hurley and the Wild Sheep Foundation. I wanted to wear my Wild Sheep Foundation shirt that I received from you, Kevin, a number of years ago, and it's cut perfectly in the chest area, but the abdomen is tailored horribly and it's very tight. So I'm wondering if I could get a replacement for that reason. But anyway, all of that aside, again, I want to reiterate the welcome to all the participants of the symposium. I wish we could all meet in person here in Alberta and you can enjoy a wonderful fall. It's anomalous in terms of the weather that we're having right now. It's unusually warm. It's a beautiful fall and I wish we could all meet in person. But due to COVID safety reasons, I think it's best that we meet online and virtually. I would like to say that Alberta is a very strong and willing participant in the management and conservation of our great sheep and goat resources that we have. These are international resources. We work closely with our colleagues in other jurisdictions. We have a very, very high stakeholder interest with respect to these species. And also, given the range and distribution of these species and the habitats upon which they occupy and depend, there's some habitat-related issues in these environments. Montane, subalpine environments, they tend to be quite susceptible and fragile with respect to disturbance and changes in climate, changes in terms of forest ingress, ensuring that we have good fire return intervals, good habitat, high quality forage, and healthy populations. We have a number of threats that are that we face here in Alberta with respect to sheep management. Everything from managing good sound harvest to natural levels of predation to disease to ensuring that habitat quality element is in place. So I wanted to open with a very general high-level presentation that I'm going to ask Kevin to bring on screen and give you a very brief overview of bighorn sheep and mountain goat management here in Alberta. So as you see, we have our bighorns. Bighorns in Alberta are a provincial mammal. They frequently appear on all sorts of crests, provincial crests, coat of arms, and in recent past, in terms of our Fish and Wildlife branch, they were our symbol. So they have a lot of importance to Albertans in general. You have the next slide, please, Kevin. There we go, thank you. So we'll start off with goats. We have an estimate of 1,200 goats in provincial lands in Alberta. These populations, from the recent monitoring over the last 15 to 20 years, that we've been quite active with respect to completing are indicating declines in terms of populations. Of the 35 identified goat areas that we have provincially, we've documented 77% have shown trends with respect to decline, 13 with insufficient data. These require almost an annual level of monitoring following post-harvest, and that is quite expensive. Our allocation for goats is approximately five per year, on special draw, all on males. If we have an incidental harvest on nannies on females, then that really affects how we're able to allocate in following years. If you were to ask any biologist in Alberta, why we have declines in goats, the real solid answer is we don't know. But it could be any one of a number of factors, from natural levels of predation to the amount of suitable habitat, to predation-related events, to harvest strategies, or a combination thereof. So in terms of management actions that we're undertaking right now, we're very, very conservatively allocating these animals. We only allocate males to date. If we have a unintentional non-target harvest of a female, we shut it down through closures. In following years, we've implemented a hunter ID course, which is designed in order to get hunters to critically identify and stay away from nannies and focus on the billies. We've also looked at implementation of artificial mineral licks that are close to escape terrain to reduce that type of mortality. Move on to the next slide, please. So as we said, Alberta Bighorn rams, international resource, very important to Alberta. And we have a very active group of stakeholders that are critically concerned about the management of this species. Slide, please, Kevin. So in terms of the range and distribution of bighorns in Alberta, they occur north to south along the eastern slope areas. As far north as that Wilmore, and just to the north of the Wilmore wilderness area, all the way down throughout the rocks, and a fairly contiguous population all the way down to Waterton, and then south into Glacier, and then over the hump into BC, into the East Kootenay areas. So as we're developing a management plan to do that, we have to recognize the international value and the connectivity with other populations and other jurisdictions. We are 2 to 3 years into the development of a new management plan for bighorns. The principal means by which we engage stakeholders is through SDM, structured decision-making framework. It depends on participation from a number of focus group representatives from a wide variety of organizations, many of which are attendees at this conference. It relies on a set of focused, structured, set of binary questions and decisions, developments of interests, trade-offs that will allow us to focus on the development of very good, concrete, and quantitative objectives by which we'll be able to apply management strategies, recovery actions when needed, and optimize the way that we allocate and harvest these rams in order to achieve those objectives that are identified by stakeholders and researchers. We have a science team made up of bighorn experts from a wide variety of agencies that are able to provide that research, the knowledge of the literature, the knowledge with respect to the disease, the knowledge with respect to phenotype, genotype, distribution, nutrition on the landscape. And of course, where would we be without modelers in the world to be able to apply this in conjunction with all of the data layers that we currently have, and to be able to use concrete, hard data to develop response coefficients and algorithms that are truthed regularly to be able to reduce the error when we simulate the effects of various management options and techniques on a resultant population and habitat response for bighorns. Next slide, please. Our provincial population of bighorns is generally quite stable to slightly increasing. Currently have approximately 9,000 sheep provincially, 6,000 which are on provincial crown lands, and we have 3,000 occurring in national parks. The rams that are occurring on, and the sheep that are occurring on national parks, they're located in very important places because they act as refugia for a number of these sheep, and they're actually quite critical in terms of the habitat value and the escape terrain, and minimizing all sorts of negative effects that could potentially occur to those populations. The next slide, please. In terms of hunting, our resident trophy license sales and harvest, our harvest generally tends to remain fairly stable. We harvest between 140 to 160 rams annually. We have been doing so for the last 30 years. Our license sales, and Alberta is quite unique. We're one of the very few jurisdictions in North America that offer many opportunities for over-the-counter bighorn licenses for trophy bighorns. We have a number of areas that are vulnerable to overharvest and that have quality level objectives that are assigned to them that we conservatively manage and allocate via our draw system. The number of trophy sales have increased, relatively stable, going from 2,000, 2,500. We're at about 2,300 right now. That being said, our harvest is between 140 and 160 animals per year. In terms of our non-trophy license sales and harvest, we notice a significant decline in that. We don't really know what the causal elements would be with respect to that. I have my own suspicions, and that may be completely wrong. I think we have a strong resurgence and interest with respect to sheep hunting, backcountry experiences, the experience as a whole, and how that is valued with respect to the hunting of trophy animals. And on an experiential basis, our stakeholders indicate it's extremely high quality experience. A significant amount of effort and money are spent by sheep hunters in order to do that, and I think that's really good. So we will see more detail with respect to how we are managing sheep in Alberta. We have presentations regarding how we would mitigate and manage the disease risk as a result of Mycoplasma pneumoniae. We have some modeling to tell you exactly how we're able to optimize and simulate the sheep quality, quantity, or sheep habitat quality and quantity and availability over time, and also a considerable amount of information regarding the size and age relationships from harvested rams as they've occurred in Alberta over the last 30 years. We have quite a robust data set in that regard. Next slide. And that's our presentation. That's our introduction. And I'm a firm believer that we're going to have a lot of really good presentations. Well, thanks very much. Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Beth. At this point, we're going to start off the first session, and it will be moderated by Margot Pybus, who is known to many of us, but a longtime active participant in the sheep and goat world. So, Margot, I think it's all yours.